Hi, this is Rei Inamoto, founding partner of I&CO, a business invention firm based in New York and Tokyo. The last several months have been nothing but difficult. But even in these challenging times, there are people and businesses that are finding new opportunities and audiences by pivoting in this new normal. Today's theme is creativity as the business growth engine. I'm going to draw parallels between our industry and a business in a completely different industry, a restaurant business, and share what I call 4 imperatives for growth, the types of pivots that we can make in order to grow in this new normal. Essentially, a restaurant business is a creative business. You have to be good at your own craft. You have to be creative. You have to often come up with fresh new ideas for recipes and menus. And, obvious to say, but it is a business. It's one thing to cook as a hobby, let alone bake bread to meditate, but it's a whole different thing when you have to cook, serve, get paid, and keep doing it. I see a lot of parallels between their industry and ours. Needless to say, this pandemic has been devastating for the restaurant industry. We, in this industry of marketing, consulting, media, and tech, have been fortunate to be spared to some extent of this devastation. Scott Galloway, New York University professor of business, has recently said in his podcast that media and holding companies are heading towards where the big box retailers are headed: bankruptcy. I got in touch with a friend of mine who runs a high-end restaurant called Narisawa in Tokyo. I was worried about his business, him, and his family. Chef Narisawa is one of the top chefs in the world. He's consistently ranked in the top 20 of the world's best restaurants. But as the virus started to spread earlier this year, his restaurant, like many others, faced an immediate threat, and that is going out of business. In order to survive, many restaurants started to shift to delivery, but unlike others, Restaurant Narisawa faced its own challenges. Number 1, foreign tourists as the main clientele. As the pandemic started to spread in January, he immediately lost his customers and future reservations. Number 2, high price point. A dinner at Narisawa starts at $400 per person, and that's without drinks. In this pandemic, $400 a meal is not something that you think about. Number 3, keeping its brand image. Luxury items and luxury meals are not essential. By discounting, he faced a threat of losing his brand image. Several months have passed since the beginning of the pandemic, and when I got in touch with him recently, I was relieved to see not only was his business surviving, but also he found a new avenue of business by pivoting. Looking towards the future, there are lessons that we can draw from Chef Narisawa and what he has done for his business and what we could do for our businesses and industries. And there are 4 imperatives for growth. Pivot number 1, from organizational scale to functional speed. Pivot number 2, from USP, unique selling proposition, to POV, point of view. Pivot number 3, from case study to business case. And pivot number 4, from ideal future to practical future. 1, from organizational scale to functional speed. Narisawa's dishes are highly innovative, therefore quite complex. The restaurant experience is the product, so it's not quite well suited for delivery. So Chef Narisawa and his staff quickly pivoted and made their menus to be more suitable for delivery by making it A, accessible and affordable, and B, simple to choose from. This is a demonstration of what's called the functional speed. There's a famous American football player in the US named Jerry Rice. He wasn't necessarily the fastest player, but he had the functional speed, the instinct to accelerate or decelerate when it mattered most. Another anecdote from Professor Galloway. Chef Narisawa and his staff demonstrated their functional speed when it mattered most. They did this quickly by A, making their menu more affordable and accessible, but B, radically simplifying their complicated process from hundreds of items that they prepare every day to only 2 types of bento boxes, premium bento box and jewelry bento box. One important clarification here though, the notion that you have to be small to have the functional speed is completely false. Take what's happening in the video conferencing space between Zoom, Google, and Facebook. Both Google and Facebook had their own video conference tools for many years. But with COVID-19 overnight, Zoom became a household name, and that woke Google and Facebook up. Now, those of us in technology know that releasing major updates to software would take a long time, many months, if not years. But both Google and Facebook turned on their functional speed, and within literally weeks, they had major upgrades to their video conference software that would rival Zoom. 2. From USP, unique selling proposition, to POV, point of view. I don't need to tell you that USP has been the golden acronym in the marketing and branding world for many decades. But in the world gone digital, where copy and paste is extremely easy and may not be so defensible, as we saw in the case of Instagram copying stories from Snapchat, a unique selling proposition may not be the thing that convinces the user or the customer to switch from somebody else's product to your product. Instead, I'd argue what's increasingly becoming more important in this highly imitable and highly bipartisan society that we live in today is POV, point of view. Restaurant Narisawa is popular and sought after for its USP, its highly innovative dishes cooked with the freshest and the best ingredients. But it does come with a price tag. Even for the highly simplified delivery menu that he started recently, it's still $150 per bento box. The key thing here to notice is twofold. One, Chef Narisawa was acutely aware of his exceptionally premium brand image, and lowering the price point too much could hurt it. And two, his cuisine is based in a strong philosophy, a point of view, and he stuck to it even in the time of this pandemic. He calls his philosophy Satoyama cuisine, a way of sourcing and cooking his ingredients in a most natural and sustainable way. Here's the extent he is willing to go to prove his commitment to sustainability. Early in his career, he went to the farm where the vegetables came from, and to prove that the soil where the vegetables came from was pesticide-free, he made soup out of that soil and then created a dish called, the soy soup. That soup became one of his early signature dishes. That's how strong his philosophy is. It is this point of view that builds trust with his audience, making it possible to charge the kind of premium that he charges to his audience and stay relevant even in this time of pandemic. Recently, Zoom came under scrutiny for its weak security. Zoom CEO Eric Yuan was quick to announce his apology and also planned to focus on features dedicated to security. While Google and Facebook may be able to catch up with Zoom by copying Zoom's unique selling proposition, I believe it's this kind of point of view that the CEO has that can go a long way in keeping Zoom relevant. 3. From case study to business case. The restaurant business, like advertising, loves fame. In the midst of the pandemic, it became even more important for Narisawa and other restaurants to keep their awareness and be top of their mind with their existing and potential customers. To create that awareness, Narisawa introduced a new collaboration with Dom Perignon. Limited time bento box for 2 with a bottle of Dom Perignon at a whopping $1,000 per person. Apparently, it found its audience and flew off the shelf. To be clear, it wasn't a marketing stunt, but it was based on a sound business case. The restaurant business is a thin margin business, so the operations team at Narisawa calculated the cost for this collaboration and concluded that it is indeed a good business case, not a marketing cost at a loss. Agencies may not be used to building business cases for their clients, but more comfortable probably with building a different kind of case studies. This infatuation with case studies and not enough obsession with business case. That may have been the Achilles heel that gave an opening window to consultancies to encroach aggressively into the agency's business in the past decade. 4. From ideal futures to practical futures. For Narisawa and other restaurants, the ideal future is that the pandemic will go away soon and they can go back to their normal operations. Operating on hope and ideal is unfortunately wishful thinking. Here's how Chef Narisawa pivoted from ideal to practical in his business. If you order a delivery, you eat the delivered food that day. So the restaurant's business is limited to food that can be made, served, and eaten that day. The behavioral shift that this pandemic has amplified is home cooking. We're not going out, so we're simply having to cook more at home. Capitalizing on that behavioral shift, Chef Narisawa and his staff came up with freshly packaged food items such as curries, soups, and desserts that can be stored and cooked easily later. I do note though that these items still come at premium prices. For instance, a packaged curry with Kobe beef at $60 per package. So while maintaining the restaurant's brand image, Narisawa found a customer need and made products specifically for it. Identifying unaddressed customer and cultural needs and creating solutions to unlock new market opportunities. I call these practical futures. When you're planning for the future, the further away your time horizon is, the more speculative your plan becomes, to the point of being theoretical or even science fiction. But if your plan is for the immediate or probable future, it won't make you competitive enough. So practical futures are that sweet spot. Futures close enough to be achievable, but just enough time to create new products and services with lasting and meaningful impact. Chef Narisawa and his staff turned on their functional speed when it mattered most, stuck to their point of view, found a sound business case in order to create a practical future for their business. And that is pivot. 4 imperatives for growth. Hope to see you online or in person when you have applied these imperatives to your business in order to pivot and grow and hopefully come out stronger on the other side of this pandemic. Thanks for listening and hope to see you soon.